The space station hung in the darkness between three dying stars. It was older than most civilizations, built by a species that had turned to dust long before humans learned to make fire. Now it served as the arena for the Tournament of Chosen, the most sacred tradition in all the known galaxy. Seluvis stood on the crystal viewing platform high above the arena floor. She was Valkyrie, one of the ancient ones, and her body seemed to be made of flowing silver light. Her eyes held the weight of 3,000 years. And she had come here with a purpose that burned in her chest like a small sun. She was looking for a champion. Below her, the arena stretched for miles in every direction. It was a landscape of broken buildings, twisted metal, an artificial forest designed to test warriors in every possible way. Champions from 100 different species moved through this killing ground, each one representing the finest fighter their civilization could produce. The Crethians were there, massive reptilian creatures covered in scales harder than steel. They carried axes that could cut through starship armor, and their eyes glowed with ancient rage. The Deshans moved like shadows, their bodies built for speed, their forearms holding weapons that fired beams of pure heat. The Morvacs floated above the ground in their mechanical suits, their soft bodies protected by machines that could level mountains. Every species sent their best. Every species hoped their champion would prove worthy of a Valkyrie bond. Seluvis had watched these tournaments for centuries. She had seen champions rise and fall. She had witnessed acts of incredible bravery and terrible cruelty. But she had never found what she was looking for. The warriors below were skilled, yes. They were strong and fast and deadly. But they were missing something. Something she could not name but would recognize the moment she saw it. The tournament had been going on for 3 days now. The number of champions had dropped from thousands to hundreds. The arena floor was littered with the fallen, and the survivors grew more desperate with each passing hour. Seluvis watched it all with ancient eyes that could see things no other species could perceive. She saw the quantum patterns of their souls. She saw the fire of their will and the shape of their potential. And in champion after champion, she saw the same thing. Limits, ceilings, points beyond which they could not grow no matter how hard they tried. It was during the 4th hour of the 3rd day that she noticed the anomaly. On the far edge of the arena, where the artificial forest met a field of broken concrete, a door had opened. It was a maintenance access point, used by the station's repair crews to move through the structure without entering the combat zone. Someone had made a terrible mistake. A human stepped through the door. Seluvis leaned forward, her silver form rippling with sudden interest. Humans were new to the galaxy, their species barely 1,000 years into space travel. They had no champions in the tournament. They were considered too young, too fragile, too primitive to compete with species that had been waging war among the stars for millions of years. This human was male, average height, with dark hair and brown skin. He wore the simple jumpsuit of a maintenance worker, and he carried a belt of tools around his waist. He looked around at the arena with an expression of pure confusion, clearly having no idea where he was or how much danger he was in. 3 Crethian berserkers noticed him immediately. The Crethians were the most feared warriors in the tournament. They stood 9 feet tall, and their bodies were mountains of muscle covered in scales that could stop most weapons. They had been bred for war over millions of years, their entire civilization built around the glory of combat. To them, an unarmed human was not a threat. He was a joke, a moment of entertainment before the real fighting continued. They began moving toward him, their axes dragging along the ground and leaving deep grooves in the concrete. Their laughter was a deep rumbling sound that echoed across the arena. The humans saw them coming. Seluvis expected him to run. Any sane creature would run from 3 Crethian berserkers. The arena had dozens of hiding places, and the maintenance door was still open behind him. He had options. He had escape routes. He did not run. Saluvis watched in fascination as the human studied the approaching Crethians. His body language changed. The confusion faded from his face, replaced by something harder, something older. He rolled his shoulders and shifted his weight, planting his feet more firmly on the ground. He was preparing to fight. The other champions in the area stopped what they were doing to watch. Even the most battle-hardened warriors could not look away from this strange scene. An armed human, facing 3 of the deadliest creatures in the galaxy, and showing no signs of fear. The first Crethian reached him and swung its axe in a horizontal arc that should have cut the human in half. The blade moved faster than most eyes could follow. Driven by muscles that could bend steel, the human was not there. He had moved at the last possible moment, stepping inside the arc of the swing and placing himself in the one spot where the axe could not reach. His hand shot out and struck the Crethian in the throat, hitting a spot between the scales where the flesh was soft. The massive warrior made a choking sound and stumbled backward. The second Crethian roared and brought its axe down in an overhead strike that would have split the human from skull to waist. Again, the human moved, this time rolling to the side and coming up with a length of broken pipe he had grabbed from the rubble. He swung the pipe into the Crethian's knee joint, hitting the one spot where the scales did not fully protect the leg. The crack of breaking bone was loud enough to hear across the arena. The third Crethian was more careful. It circled the human slowly, looking for an opening. But the human did not wait to be attacked. He charged forward, using the falling body of the second Crethian as cover, and drove the pipe into the third warrior's eye socket. All 3 Crethians were down in less than 30 seconds. The human stood among the fallen bodies, breathing hard, covered in blood that was not his own. He looked up at the thousands of champions staring at him from across the arena. He looked at the viewing platforms where the galactic elite watched in stunned silence. Saluvis felt her heart stop. She had found him. After 3,000 years of searching, she had finally found what she was looking for. Not in a trained warrior or a genetic perfect soldier. In a maintenance worker who had taken a wrong turn and refused to die. She began moving toward the stairs that would take her down to the arena floor. The arena had gone completely silent. Thousands of the galaxy's deadliest warriors stood frozen, staring at the human who had just killed 3 Crethian berserkers with a pipe and his bare hands. It was impossible. It was against everything they understood about the order of the universe. Marcus. Chun wiped the blood from his face and tried to understand what had just happened. He had been fixing a broken air recycler in Section 47 when he took a wrong turn. The maintenance tunnels of this station were a maze, and his map had stopped working 2 hours ago. He had pushed through a door marked with symbols he could not read, expecting to find another corridor. Instead, he had found hell. The 3 massive creatures had come at him without warning or mercy. Something inside Marcus had taken over, something old and deep that lived in the bones of every human. The part that had survived ice ages and predators and 1,000 generations of violence. He had not thought about what he was doing. He had simply done it. Now he stood in the middle of an alien arena surrounded by creatures that could kill him in a heartbeat, and he had no idea what to do next. More champions were approaching. A group of tall, thin beings with 4 arms and skin like polished metal moved toward him from the left. From the right came creatures that looked like floating brains encased in walking machines. Behind him, something that resembled a giant spider made of crystal was clicking its way across the rubble. Marcus tightened his grip on the pipe. The 4 armed beings reached him first. One of them spoke in a language that Marcus's translator chip could barely handle. The words came through broken and strange. Human, You have killed Crethians. You will explain how. They tried to kill me first, Marcus said. I defended myself. You are unarmed. You are human. Humans do not fight Crethians. Well, apparently this one does. The four-armed being tilted its head, studying Marcus with eyes that held no pupils. You are not champion. You are not warrior. What are you? I'm a maintenance specialist 3rd class. I fix things. I was trying to find Section 47, and I got lost. A sound rippled through the gathered aliens. It took Marcus a moment to realize it was laughter. They were laughing at him. He should have felt insulted, but mostly he just felt tired. His hands were shaking, and the adrenaline that had carried him through the fight was starting to fade. Lost human, one of the floating brain creatures said. Lost and stumbling into death. Yet the Crethians are dead, and you still breathe. This is strange. This is very strange. Look, Marcus said. I don't know what's going on here, but I'd really like to leave now. Can someone point me to the exit? Before anyone could answer, a new group of aliens pushed through the crowd. These ones wore the same armor as the dead Crethians, and their faces were twisted with rage. They were bigger than the 3 Marcus had killed, and they carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. That is the creature, one of them snarled. That is the thing that murdered our brothers. We claim blood price. We claim the right of vengeance. Marcus raised his pipe. I'm warning you. I don't want to fight, but I will if you make me. The lead Crethian laughed. It was an ugly sound, full of hatred. You killed 3 common soldiers with tricks and luck. You will not kill trained warriors. You will die screaming, human. They began to spread out, surrounding him. Marcus counted 7 of them, each one bigger and better armed than the ones he had already faced. His pipe suddenly felt very small and very useless, but he did not run. Running would just make him an easier target. He had learned that long ago, in places far from this alien arena. Sometimes the only way out was through. The first Crethian charged. Marcus dodged, but barely. The energy blade missed his face by inches, and he felt the heat of it sing his skin. He swung his pipe and connected with the warrior's elbow, but the blow barely seemed to register. These ones were faster, stronger, better trained that the second attack came from behind. Marcus dropped to the ground and rolled, feeling the wind of the blade passing over his head. He came up swinging and managed to hit another Crethian in the knee, but this time the warrior did not fall. It just roared and swung again. Marcus was losing. He knew it with cold certainty. He could not beat 7 trained warriors with a pipe. He could not even slow them down. But something in him refused to stop fighting. Something that went back to the first humans who had faced predators, with nothing but rocks and refused to become prey. He grabbed a broken piece of concrete from the ground and threw it at the nearest Crethian's face. It bought him half a second, enough time to dive behind a pile of rubble. Energy blasts tore the air around him, melting stone and metal. Come out, human, the lead Crethian called. Come out and die with what little honor your species can claim. Marcus looked around for anything he could use. His eyes fell on the body of one of the warriors he had killed earlier. The massive axe still lay beside it, gleaming in the arena's artificial light dot. It was too big for him. It weighed more than he did, but it was better than a pipe. He burst from cover, running faster than he had ever run in his life. The Crethians fired at him, but he moved in zigzag patterns, making himself a harder target. He reached the axe and grabbed it with both hands. It was impossibly heavy. His muscles screamed in protest, but he lifted it anyway. The nearest Crethian came at him with confidence, expecting the human to collapse under the weapon's weight. Marcus swung. The axe moved slowly, clumsily, nothing like the deadly grace the Crethians showed, but it moved enough. The blade caught the warrior in the side, cutting through armor and scales and flesh. The Crethian fell with a look of complete shock on its face. Marcus turned to face the others, the axe raised, his arm shaking with the effort of holding it up. Blood ran down his face from a cut he did not remember receiving. His lungs burned and his vision was starting to blur. But he was still standing. Who's next? He asked. The remaining Crethians hesitated. They looked at their fallen brother, then back at the human who should have been dead 10 times over. Something in their eyes changed. It was not fear exactly, but it was close. It was the look of predators realizing they had made a terrible mistake about what kind of creature they were hunting. That was when the voice rang out across the arena, clear and commanding and ancient beyond measure. Enough. Everyone stopped. Everyone turned. A figure was descending from the viewing platforms, floating down on currents of light that seemed to bend around her like water. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, her body made of flowing silver that held the shape of a woman. She was Valkyrie, one of the old ones, one of the beings that the entire tournament existed to impress, and she was walking straight toward Marcus. The Valkyrie moved through the crowd like water flowing around stones. Champions who had faced death without flinching stepped aside at her approach. Warriors who had killed hundreds bowed their heads as she passed. Even the Crethians, still burning with rage over their fallen brothers, lowered their weapons and retreated. Marcus stood alone in the center of the arena, still holding the massive axe, watching this silver being approach him. His arms ached from the weight of the weapon, and his body screamed at him to rest, but he refused to lower his guard. He had learned the hard way that the moment you relaxed was the moment something killed you. The Valkyrie stopped a few feet away from him. Her eyes were like stars, bright and ancient and full of things Marcus could not understand. She studied him in silence for a long moment, her head tilted slightly to one side. "You may put down the weapon," she said. Her voice was gentle, almost musical. "No one will harm you now." "With respect," Marcus said, "I've had a pretty bad day. I think I'll keep holding it." Something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. "My name is Saluvis. I am Archon of the Valkyrie." "Do you know what that means?" "No, I fix aerocyclists. I don't really follow galactic politics. It means I am very old and very powerful. It means my word is law in this place. And it means that if I say you are safe, then you are safe." Marcus considered this. His arms were shaking badly now, and black spots were dancing at the edges of his vision. He had lost more blood than he realized. Slowly, carefully, he lowered the axe to the ground. "Okay," he said, "but if someone tries to kill me again, I'm picking it back up. That is fair." Saluvis moved closer, circling him slowly. Her eyes seemed to look through his skin and bone, seeing something deeper. "What is your name?" "Marcus Chun, Maintenance Specialist 3rd Class. Look, this has been a really weird day, and I'd like to go home now. You killed 3 Crethian berserkers with nothing but your hands and a pipe. Then you faced 7 more while injured and exhausted, armed only with a weapon too heavy for you to properly wield. Do you understand how remarkable that is?" Marcus shrugged. "They were trying to kill me. I didn't have a lot of choices. There's always a choice. You could have run. You could have hidden. You could have begged for mercy. Instead, you fought. Why?" It was a simple question, but Marcus had to think about the answer. Why had he fought? The smart move would have been to run. The logical choice would have been to surrender and hope for mercy. But something in him had refused to even consider those options. "Because I'm not prey," he finally said. "My ancestors survived ice ages with nothing but fire and sharp rocks. They faced predators 10 times their size and won. They crossed oceans and climbed mountains and explored every corner of our world. because something in them refused to accept limits. That's what humans are. We don't give up. We don't back down. We don't stop fighting until we're dead or we've won. The arena was completely silent. Every champion, every official, every observer was watching this exchange between the ancient Valkyrie and the blood-covered human. Saluvis smiled. It was a strange expression on her silver face, but somehow it looked right. "Marcus-chan," she said, her voice rising so that everyone in the arena could hear, "I select you as my champion." The silence stretched on for a long moment. Then it broke into chaos. "Impossible." The lead Crethian pushed forward, his face twisted with outrage. "He's not a warrior. He's not even a proper competitor. He wandered onto this arena by accident." "The selection is my right," Saluvis said calmly. "It has always been my right. I do not need him to be a competitor. I need him to be worthy. He murdered our brothers. In fair combat, they attacked him. He defended himself. By your own laws, there is no blood price to be paid." Other voices joined the argument. Tournament officials pushed through the crowd, their robes flowing behind them. They spoke of rules and traditions and proper procedures. They insisted that a human could not be selected, that Marcus was not eligible, that this broke every protocol they had established over millennia. Saluvis listened to all of it with patient silence. When they finally stopped talking, she spoke. "The Tournament of Chosen exists for one purpose: to allow the Valkyrie to find worthy champions. That is its only purpose. All your rules and traditions are built around this goal. And now I have found a worthy champion. You may accept this, or you may tell me that your rules are more important than the purpose they serve." No one had an answer to that. Marcus raised his hand like a student in a classroom. "Excuse me, what exactly does it mean to be your champion?" Saluvis turned back to him. "It means we will bond. Your mind and mine will connect. I will share my power with you, and you will share your strength with me. Together we will become something greater than either of us could be alone." That sounds intense. It is. It is. The bonding process is not easy. Many do not survive it. Oh, great. So I fought off alien murder machines just to die in some kind of brain-melding ritual? You will not die. I have looked into your soul, Marcus-chan. I have seen what you are capable of. You are stronger than you know. Marcus laughed. It was a tired, broken sound, but it was genuine. "Lady, I don't know anything about being a champion. I know about fixing broken pipes and rewiring power conduits. I know about calibrating oxygen scrubbers and patching hull breaches. I'm nobody special." "That," Saluvis said, "is exactly why I chose you." She reached out and touched his face with fingers that felt like cool water. Images flooded his mind. Stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, wars that spanned galaxies, peace that lasted millennia. He saw the Valkyrie in their glory, beings of pure light guiding the younger races toward wisdom. He saw champions of ages past, warriors who had changed the course of history, and he saw what he could become. The images faded, and Marcus found himself on his knees, tears streaming down his face. He did not understand everything he had seen, but he understood enough. This was not just about fighting. This was about something bigger, something that mattered. Saluvis helped him to his feet. "Come," she said. "We have much to do and little time to do it. The bonding chamber awaits." Marcus looked back at the crowd of aliens watching them. The Crethians glared at him with hatred. The tournament officials looked confused and angry. But many of the champions were staring at him with something else in their eyes. Something that looked almost like respect. He turned back to Saluvis and nodded. "Lead the way." The bonding chamber existed in a place that should not have been possible. Saluvis had led Marcus through corridors that twisted in ways that hurt his eyes, through doors that opened onto different dimensions, through spaces where the laws of physics seemed to be merely suggestions. Now they stood in a room carved from the heart of a dead star. The walls pulsed with colors that had no names, and the air hummed with energy that made Marcus's teeth vibrate. In the center of the room was a circular platform surrounded by symbols that glowed with soft light. "Stand there," Saluvis said, pointing to the platform, "and try to remain calm." Marcus stepped onto the platform. The moment his feet touched it, he felt a warmth spreading through his body. It was not unpleasant, but it was strange. It felt like waking up from a very long sleep. "Before we begin," Saluvis said, circling the platform slowly, "I want to explain something to you. I want you to understand why I chose you. Because I'm good at not dying? That is part of it. But there's more." She stopped in front of him, her star-bright eyes meeting his. "Do you know how the other species of the galaxy see humans?" Marcus shrugged. "Young, primitive, lucky to have made it to space without blowing ourselves up. Yes, that is what they say. But it is not what they truly believe. Deep down, in places they do not like to look, every advanced species in the galaxy is afraid of humans." Marcus laughed. "That's ridiculous. The Krethians could crush us. The Leshens could outrun us. Half the species in that arena could destroy our entire civilization without breaking a sweat. Could they? Could they really?" Saluvis began pacing again. "Let me tell you about the Krethians. 10 million years ago, they were small, weak creatures living in swamps. They evolved into what they are now through selective breeding. They made themselves into weapons. Every generation, they chose the strongest, most aggressive, the most deadly to reproduce. Everything else was discarded. That's horrible. It is effective. And it is what every species in the galaxy has done. The Leshens engineered themselves for speed. The Morvax built machines to compensate for their physical weakness. The Valkyrie evolved our perception until we could see the structure of reality itself. Everyone specialized. Everyone found their advantage and pushed it as far as it could go. And humans didn't. Humans refused to. Your species had the same options. You could have bred yourselves into perfect warriors like the Krethians. You could have engineered yourselves into something faster, stronger, more deadly. But you did not. You remained what you were. Generalists, adapters, creatures of infinite potential and no fixed limits. Marcus frowned. "I don't understand why that's scary." Saluvis smiled. "Because every other species has a ceiling. The Krethians are as strong and fast as biology allows. They cannot grow further. The Leshens have optimized their bodies to the point where any improvement in one area requires a sacrifice in another. Even my people have traded away things we do not speak of for our perception. We have all reached our limits. We have all hit our ceilings." She stopped directly in front of Marcus, her face inches from his. "Humans have no ceiling. You are born weak and soft and helpless, and then you spend your entire lives getting better. You learn. You adapt. You overcome. There is no point at which you stop improving. No wall that you cannot break through. Given enough time, humans could become anything. Could surpass anything." Marcus felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "You're saying humans are dangerous because we're not finished yet. I am saying humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy because you never stop growing. And now I'm going to remove the barriers that have been holding you back." "What barriers?" Saluvis touched his forehead with one silver finger. "Your ancestors needed controls. They needed limits. Without them, they would have destroyed themselves long before they left your planet. Your brains developed barriers that kept you from accessing your full potential. Psychological governors that limit aggression. Neurological blocks that prevent you from pushing your bodies past safe limits. Mental walls that keep you from perceiving things that would drive you mad. Those sound like they're there for good reasons. They were. They are. But you are no longer on your homeworld, fighting for survival against animals and each other. You are in a galaxy full of species that will kill you if you cannot match them. The training wheels, as you might say, need to come off. Marcus swallowed hard. What exactly is going to happen to me? I am going to bond with you. My mind will touch yours, and I will show you what you truly are. I will remove the locks on your potential. I will let you become what humans were always meant to become. And if I can't handle it, then you will die. Or you will go mad. Or you will become something terrible that I will have to destroy. Saluvis's voice was calm, almost gentle. But I do not think any of those things will happen. I have looked into your soul, Marcus-chun. I have seen the fire that burns there. You will not break. You will become. She stepped back and raised her hands. Light began to flow from her fingers, surrounding Marcus in ribbons of silver energy. The warmth he had felt earlier became heat, and then something beyond heat. Something that burned without consuming. Images flooded his mind again, but this time they did not come from Saluvis. They came from himself. He saw his ancestors, stretching back through countless generations. Cave dwellers who faced down predators with nothing but fire. Hunters who chased prey across continents. Explorers who crossed oceans in wooden boats. Soldiers who stood against impossible odds and refused to fall. He saw what they had overcome. The ice ages that should have killed them. The diseases that should have wiped them out. The wars and famines and disasters that should have ended the human story 1,000 times over. And through it all, humans had survived, adapted, grown stronger. The barriers in his mind began to crack. He could feel them for the first time in his life. Walls he had never known existed, holding back parts of himself he had never been allowed to see. And now those walls were coming down. The pain was incredible. Marcus screamed, falling to his knees as his brain rewired itself. He saw colors he had no names for, heard sound from frequencies human ears were never meant to process, felt the quantum structure of reality brushing against his consciousness. He felt himself dying. The old Marcus-chun, the maintenance worker who just wanted to fix things and go home, was being burned away. Something new was taking his place. Something that had been waiting inside humanity since the very beginning. The light faded. The pain stopped. Marcus stood up. He looked at his hands. They were the same hands they had always been, but they felt different now, stronger, more precise. He could feel every muscle fiber, every nerve ending, every tiny movement with perfect clarity. He looked at Saluvis. He could see her now, really see her. Not just her silver form, but the patterns of energy that made her what she was. The ancient power that flowed through her. The connection that now linked them together. How do you feel? She asked. Marcus flexed his fingers. He took a deep breath. He looked around the chamber with new eyes that could perceive things he had never imagined. I feel, he said slowly, like I just woke up for the first time in my life. Saluvis smiled. Good, because the tournament is not over yet. And now you need to show the galaxy what humans can really do. Marcus returned to the arena 3 hours after leaving it. The tournament had paused while the officials argued about rules and traditions and whether a human could legally compete. They were still arguing when he stepped through the main gate. Everything was different. Now he could see the heat signatures of every living creature in the arena. He could hear heartbeats from hundreds of feet away. He could smell fear and anger and excitement in the air like different colors of paint. The barriers in his mind were gone, and the world had become sharp and clear in ways he had never imagined. The champions turned to face him. Many of them had gathered in groups, forming alliances against the threat he represented. The Krethians stood together in a wall of scaled muscle and burning rage. The Deshans moved in packs like hunting predators. Even species that had been enemies for thousands of years were working together. Now, they were all afraid of him. Marcus could see it in their body language, in the way they held their weapons, in the small movements they made without even knowing it. They had heard what happened in the bonding chamber. They had seen humans in a new light, and they were terrified of what that might mean. The first challenge came from a Deshan warrior. She was tall and graceful, her forearms holding weapons that crackled with energy. She moved like water, flowing across the ground toward him with speed that would have been impossible to track before his awakening. Now, she seemed almost slowed up. Marcus did not even think about what he was doing. His body moved on its own, responding to threats before his conscious mind could process them. He stepped aside from her first attack, caught her arm on the second swing, and used her own momentum to throw her to the ground. "Yield," he said, standing over her with her own weapon pointed at her throat. She stared up at him with wide eyes. No one had ever defeated her so quickly. No one had ever made her look so helpless. After a long moment, she nodded. "I yield." Marcus helped her to her feet and handed back her weapon. She stared at him in confusion. "You are not going to kill me? Why would I kill you?" "You yielded. The fight is over. That is not how champions behave. It's how I behave." The next challenger came from the Morvax, a walking tank of a creature, its soft body protected by mechanical armor that bristled with weapons. It fired at Marcus from across the arena, beams of plasma that should have reduced him to ash. Marcus dodged them. Not by luck, not by accident, but by reading the tiny movements of the weapon systems and predicting exactly where each shot would go. He crossed the distance between them in seconds, moving faster than any human had ever moved, and drove his fist into a gap in the armor that he had spotted from 100 feet away. The Morvax collapsed, its systems shutting down from the damage to its power core. Marcus pulled open the armor and found the soft, helpless creature inside. It looked up at him with terror in its many eyes. "Yield?" Marcus asked. It yielded. One by one, the champions came. Some attacked alone. Some attacked in groups. Some tried to ambush him. Others challenged him openly. It did not matter. Marcus defeated them all, but he did not kill. Every opponent who yielded was spared. Every champion who fell was helped back to their feet. Marcus fought with incredible skill and power, but he also fought with mercy. And this confused the other warriors more than anything else. "Why?" asked a Krethian champion he had just defeated. "Why do you not finish us? Is this some kind of insult?" "It's not an insult," Marcus said. "It's a choice. You fought well. There's no reason for you to die. We would not show you the same mercy. I know. That's why I'm showing it to you. Maybe next time you'll make a different choice." The Krethian stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, something changed in his eyes. The hatred faded, replaced by something that might have been the beginning of respect. Word spread through the arena. The human did not kill his opponents. The human showed mercy to his enemies. This was not how champions were supposed to behave. This was not how the tournament was supposed to work. And yet, somehow, it was working. Champions who had been defeated by Marcus began following him, not as servants or subjects, but as allies. They saw something in him that they had never seen in a champion before. A different way of being strong. A different kind of power. By the end of the first day after his return, Marcus had gathered a small army. By the end of the second day, it had grown into a coalition. Species that had been enemies for millennia were standing side by side, united not by fear but by hope. On the third day, the last of the other champions yielded. The tournament was over. Marcus stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by warriors from 100 different species. They looked to him now. They waited for him to speak. Even the Crethians who had sworn to kill him stood quietly and listened. "I didn't ask for this," Marcus said. His voice carried across the arena, amplified by the bond with Saluvis. "I didn't want to be a champion. I just wanted to fix my air recycler and go home. But I'm here now, and I've seen something I can't unsee." He looked around at the gathered champions. "You've been fighting each other for millions of years. Your civilizations have been at war for so long that none of you can remember why it started. And what has it gotten you? Dead brothers, dead sisters, dead planets, an entire galaxy full of species that hate and fear each other because that's all they've ever known." He pointed up at the viewing platforms where the galactic elite watched in stunned silence. "They keep you fighting. The tournaments, the wars, the endless competition. It keeps you divided. It keeps you weak. And it keeps them in power." Marcus lowered his hand and looked at the champions around him. "I'm just a human. A maintenance worker who took a wrong turn. But I've learned something in the past few days. Strength isn't about how hard you can hit or how many enemies you can kill. It's about what you're willing to stand for, what you're willing to protect, what you're willing to build." He reached out and helped up a Crethian warrior who had fallen to one knee. The massive creature looked at him with eyes that held no hatred anymore. "I'm not going to be the kind of champion they expect," Marcus said. "I'm going to be something new. And if you want to stand with me, if you want to build something better than what we have, then I welcome you. All of you." The silence stretched on for a long moment. Then, one by one, the champions began to kneel. Not in submission, but in allegiance. Even the Crethians. Even the species that had sworn to destroy humanity. They knelt before the maintenance worker who had refused to die and refused to kill. Above the arena, on her crystal platform, Saluvis watched with ancient eyes that were bright with tears. She had searched for 3,000 years for this moment. She had looked into countless souls, hoping to find what she had found in Marcus Chundat, not the strongest warrior, not the deadliest killer, but something far more rare and far more precious. Hope the galaxy would never be the same. 3 years later, Marcus stood on the same platform where Saluvis had first watched the tournament. The arena below was full again, but it was different now. Champions from every species competed not to kill, but to protect. They tested their skills not for glory, but for the right to serve. The tournament of chosen had become something new. A celebration instead of a bloodbath. A union instead of a war. Saluvis stood beside him, her silver form glowing softly in the light of the dying stars. "You know," Marcus said, "I still don't really understand why you chose me. There were better fighters, better warriors, better everything." "There were," Saluvis agreed. "But I was not looking for a better fighter. I was looking for someone who would walk into a battle they could not win, unarmed and alone, and win anyway. I was looking for someone who would show mercy to enemies who deserved none. I was looking for someone who would change the galaxy, not through force, but through hope." She turned to face him, and for a moment, the ancient being looked almost human herself. "I was looking for a human," she said, "and I found one." Marcus smiled and looked out over the arena, where species that had been enemies for millions of years now stood together as allies. The galaxy was changing. It would take centuries to undo the damage of millennia, but it was starting. Something new was being born, and it had all begun with a maintenance worker who got lost on the way to Section 47.